शुक्लां भरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करभावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। अगजानन पद्मार्कं गजाननमहर्निशम् अनेकदन्तं भक्तानाम् एकदन्तमुपास्महे। श्रीमहागणपतये नमः। गुरवे सर्वलोकानां विषजे भवरोगिणां निधये सर्वविद्यानां श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। अस्मद्गुरुचरणारविन्दाभ्यां नमः। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं। ज्ञानानन्दमयं देवं निर्मलस्फटिकाकृतिम् आधारं सर्वविद्यानां श्रीहयग्रीवमुपास्महे। श्रीहयग्रीवमूर्तये नमः। सरस्वति नमस्तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणि विद्यारम्भं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा। श्रीमहासरस्वत्यै नमः। उमाकोमलहस्ताब्जसम्भावितललाटकं हिरण्यकुण्डलं वन्दे कुमारं पुष्करस्रजं। வெற்றிவேல் முருகனுக்கு ஹர ஹரோஹரா. லோகவீரியம் மகாபூஜ்யம் சர்வரக்ஷாகரம் விபும் பார்வதி ஹிருதயானந்தம் சாஸ்தாரம் பிரணமாம்யகம். சுவாமியே சரணமையப்பா. வாகர்த்தாவிவ சம்பிரக்தௌ வாகர்த்த பிரதிபத்தயே ஜகதः பிதரौ வந்தே பார்வதி பரமேஸ்வரौ. ஸ்ரீ பார்வதி பரமேஸ்வராभ्यां நமः. कोमलं पूजयन् वेणुं श्यामलोऽयं कुमारकः वेदवेद्यं परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। अस्मद्गुरुचरणारविन्दाभ्यां नमः। श्रीकृष्ण गोविन्द हरे मुरारे श्रीनाथ नारायण वासुदेव। श्रीकृष्ण गोविन्द हरे मुरारे श्रीनाथ नारायण वासुदेव। श्रीकृष्ण गोविन्द हरे मुरारे श्रीनाथ नारायण वासुदेव। पीताम्बरं करविराजितचक्रशङ्खकौमोदकी सरसिजं करुणासमुद्रं राधासहायम् अतिसुन्दरमन्दहासं वातालयेशम् अनिशं हृदि भावयामि। कृष्णो रक्षतु मां चराचरगुरुः कृष्णं नमस्ये सदा। कृष्णेनैव सुरक्षितोऽहमसकृत् कृष्णाय दत्तं मनः। कृष्णादेव समुद्भवो मम विभो कृष्णस्य दासोऽस्म्यहम्। कृष्णे भक्तिरचञ्चलास्तु भगवन् हे कृष्ण तुभ्यं नमः। श्रीगुरुवायूरप्पा शरणं नम्राणां सन्निधत्ते सततमपि पुरस्तैरणभ्यर्थितानपि आर्तान् कामानजस्रं वितरति परमानन्दसान्द्रां गतिं च। इत्थं निःशेषलभ्यो निरवधिकफलः पारिजातो हरे त्वं क्षुद्रं तं शक्रवाटी ध्रुममभिलषति व्यर्थमर्त्यव्रजोऽयं। श्रीगुरुवायूरप्पा शरणं श्रीभट्टपादम् अनिशं हृदि भावयामि। वंशी विभूषितकरात् नवनीरदाभात् पीताम्बरात् अरुणबिम्बफलादरोष्णात् पूर्णेन्दुसुन्दरमुखात् अरविन्दनेत्रात् कृष्णात् परं किमपि तत्त्वमहं न जाने. കൈരണ്ടും കൂപ്പി ഞാൻ വീണ്ടും ഇറക്കുന്നു നീരജലോചന നിന്നോടായി. ഏതീനു മഞ്ഞനെ കുമ്പീരേണ്ടാത്തോറും രീതിയിൽ നീ എന്നെ പാലിക്കുന്നായി. കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ ജയ കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ ജയ കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ ജയ കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ. Good morning, everyone. Welcome back. This 1 week break feels like a really long gap in between. That's why I try to not skip classes. But last week I was in puja in Toronto for 4 days, so I couldn't accommodate this. So anyway, okay. So we'll do 18 and 19. We'll do a quick review. Let's see who I had. Baiju, can you do one? And Girish, you can do one. Who wants to do 18 or
Okay,
19?
then I will start then. जातस्य ध्रुवकुल एव तुङ्गकीर्तेः अङ्गस्य व्यजनिसुतः स वेन नाम यद्दोषव्यतितमतिः स राजवर्यः त्वत्पादे निहितमनावनं गतोऽभूत् पापोऽपि क्षितितलपालनाय वेनः पौरोध्येरुपनिहितः कठोरवीर्यः सर्वेभ्यो निजबलमेव सम्प्रशंसन् भूचक्रे तव यजनान्ययं न्यरौत्सीत्
Baiju, the second line, first word, pauradhyay.
पौराध्य ओके थैंक यू सम्प्राप्ते हितकथनाय तापसौख्ये मत्तोऽन्यो भुवनपतिर्न कश्चनेति तुन्निन्दावचनपरो मुनीश्वरैस्तैः शापाग्नो शलभदशामनायिवेनः तन्नाशात् कलजनभीरुकैर्मुनीन्द्रैः तन्मात्रा चिरपरिरक्षिते तदङ्के त्यक्ताके परिमतिता धतोरुदण्डाद दोर्दण्डे परिमतिते त्वमाविरासीः विख्यातपृथुरिदितापसोपदिष्टैः सूताद्ये परिणुतभावि भूरिवीर्यः वेनार्त्या कबलिदसम्पदं दरित्रीम् आक्रान्तां निजधनुषा समामकाशीः भूयस्तां निजकुलमुख्यवक्सयुक्तैः देवाद्ये समुचितचारुभाजनेषु अन्नादीन्यभिलषितानि तानि तानि स्वच्छन्दं सुरपितनूमधुदुहस्त्वम्
A third line, yani tani.
यानि आत्मानं यजति मकैस्तुयि आरब्धे शततमवाजिमेधयागे स्पर्धालुशतमग एत्यनीचवेषो हृत्वाश्वं तव तनयात् पराजितोऽभूत् देवेन्द्रं मुहुरिति वाजिनं हरन्तं वह्नौ तं मुनिवरमण्डले जुहूषौ रुन्दाने कमलभवे कृतो समाप्तौ साक्षात् त्वं मधुरिपुमैक्षता स्वयं स्वम् तद्धत्तं वरमुपलभ्य भक्तिमेकां गङ्गान्ते विहितपद कदापि देवः सत्रस्तं मुनिनिवहं हितानि शंसन् ऐच्छिष्टा सनकमुखान् मुनीन् पुरस्तात्
Second line end, there is no visarga there, just deva.
ओके विज्ञानं सनकमुखोदितं ददानः स्वात्मानं स्वयमगमो वनान्दसेवी तत्तादृत्पृथुवपुरीश सत्वरं मे रोखौकं प्रशमय वादगेहवासिन् श्रीकृष्णाय
दशकं 19 पृतोस्तु नप्ता पृथुधर्मकर्मटः प्राचीनबर्हुर्युवतौ शतद्रुतौ प्रचेतसो नाम सुचेतसा सुतान् अजीजनत्वत्करुणां कुरानिव पितुःसृशिक्षा निरतस्य शासनात् भवत्तपस्याभिरता दशापि ते पयोनिधिं पश्चिममेत्यतत्तटे सरोवरं सन्ददृशुर्मनोहरं तदा भवत्तीर्थमिदं समागतो भवो भवत्सेवकदर्शनाद्धृतः प्रकाशमासाद्य पुरः प्रचेतसाम् उपादिशद्भक्ततमस्तवस्तवम् स्तवं जपन्तस्तममी जलान्तरे भवन्तमासे विशतायुतं समाह भवत्सुखास्वाद् रसादमीश्वियान् बभूव कालो ध्रुववन्न शीघ्रता तपोभिरेषा मतिमात्रवर्धिभिः स यज्ञहिंसा निरतोऽपि पावितः पितापि तेषां नारद प्रदर्शितात्मा भवदात्मतां ययौ कृपाबलेनैव पुरः प्रचेतसां प्रकाशमागाः प्रतगेन्द्रवाहनः विरायुधांशुभिः भुजाभिरष्टाभिरुधञ्चितद्युतिः.
A third line, Viraji Chakradi Varayudam Shubhihi.
विराजिचक्रादिवरायुधांशुभिः भुजाभिरष्टाभिरुदञ्चितद्युतिः प्रचेतसां तावद याचतामपि त्वमेव भरद्वारनदाः भराद्वरानदाः भवद्विचन्तापि शिवाय देहिनां भवत्वसौ रुद्रनुतिश्च कामदा अवाप्य कान्तां तनयां महीरुहां तया रमध्वं दशलक्षवत्सरीं सुतेस्तु दक्षो ननु तत्क्षणक्षमां प्रयस्यतेति न्यगदो मुदैवतान्.
And the third line, I think, Sutto. I think you said Sute. Some word you said something slightly different. Sutostu Daksha.
सुतोस्तु दक्षो ननु तत्क्षणक्षमां प्रयस्यथेति न्यगदो मुदैवतान् ततश्च ते रोगिणस्तरून् क्रुधा दहन्तो द्रुहिणेन वारिताः द्रुमेश्च दत्तं धनयामवाप्यतां तव त्वदुक्तकालं सुखिनोभिरेमिरे.
Second line, Varitaha. There's a visarga at the end. Okay. Second line.
Okay. अवाप्य दक्षं च सुतं कृताध्वराः प्रचेतसो नारदलब्धया दिया अवापुरानन्दपदं तथाविदः त्वमीश वातालयनाथ पाहि मां. श्रीकृष्णाय परब्रह्मणे नमः.
Good. Okay, so we'll start with 20 today. So 20 is Rishabha Yogishwara Charita Varnanam. So about this person called Rishabha Yogishwara, which is another partial incarnation, very similar to Prithu. Let me see who I had today. Sorry, who is showing up as SPRAT? Is it Sudha Ningalal?
That's me, Suganya Rajesh.
Suganya. Oh, okay, all right. Okay, so first half, Anu, you can be a student, and Madhavi Garu, you can be a student. Stanza 1. Priyavratasya Priyaputra Bhutate Agnidra Rajadudito Hinabhihi Tvam Drishtavanishtatamishti Madhye Tavaiva Tushtye Kritayajna Karma. So just to kind of recap what we saw so far, right? So we saw like from Swayambhuva Manu, who came from Brahma. We saw one entire lineage of the Swayambhuva Manu, which is starting with Uttanapada. Then Uttanapada, we saw his son Dhruva, which was Dhruva Charitram in Dashakam 17. Then in Dashakam 18, we saw the Prithu Charitram, which was the lineage of Dhruva, Anga, Vena, and that particular thing. And then to Vena, was born Prithu. So we saw that in 18. Then in 19, we saw the Charitram of Prachetas, which was coming in that lineage again to the Prithu, Prachina Barhishit, and then to them Prachetas, and to the Prachetas, Daksha was reborn again. So that was the entire lineage we saw of Uttanapada, who is one of the sons of Swayambhuva Manu. So that Daksha Charitram will continue again in 23, but that entire lineage is coming to an end. Now we're going to jump to the parallel tree, which is the other son of Swayambhuva Manu, which is Priyavrata, who's at the same level of Uttanapada, right? Dhruva's father, the same level as Priyavrata. So now that lineage, few dashakams are there related to that. So in that Priyavrata's lineage, to him was born a son called Agnidhara. So that's when second line, Agnidhara Rajat. So the Agnidhara is his son. And then to him is born another person called Nabi. So that is a grandson of Priyavrata. So Priyavrata, then Agnidhara, then Nabi. Now this, like we saw in very similar to what happened to, Anga and all of that, right? They all have to, the whole goal is to spread the population, creation, all of that. So to this Nabhi and his wife, who's Meru Devi, they also did not have any children. So they always worship Bhagavan, go do all these religious activities. And then to them, but you then came, when they performed this Krita Yajna Karma, they then perform a yajnam to then please you, Bhagavan, so that you can come and bless them. Priya Bratasya Priya Putra Bhutat, put a it at the end of that line, Bhutat, comma. Next time we'll have Dagnidra, that Da will go, it become a Agnidra Raja Dudito Ki Nabihi Twam Drishtavan. So I'm just breaking at that Na there, Drishtavan Ishtadam Ishti Madhye. Ishtadam Ishti Madhye, comma. Tavaiva Tushtyai Krita Yajna Karma. Priya Vrat. Yeah.
One more time on the split to Solanga.
Okay.
Second
Twam Drishtavan in Ishtadam Ishti. Or you can say Ishtadam Ishti together, but if you want to break it, Ishtadam Ishti Madhye.
அது வந்து திருஷ்டுவாவா திருஷ்டவாவா அது
Drishtavan. Ish and then a ta, full ta. Drishtavan.
நான் புக்ல இட்னு போட்டிருக்கேன்.
Oh, yeah. Drishtavan. Seeing. Yeah. Drishtva. Priya Vratasya Priya Putra Bhutate Agnidra Raja Dudito Hinabihi Twam Drishtavan Ishtadamishti Madhye Tavaiva Tushtyai Krita Yajna Karma.
प्रियव्रतस्य प्रियपुत्रपूतात् आग्निद्रराजा तुदितो हिनाभिः त्वां दृष्टवान् इष्टदमिष्टिमध्ये तवैव तुष्ट्यै कृतयज्ञकर्म प्रियव्रतस्य प्रियपुत्रपूतात् आग्निद्रराजा तुदितो हिनाभिः त्वां दृष्टवान् इष्टदमिष्टिमध्ये तवैव तुष्ट्यै कृतयज्ञकर्म.
Recording in progress.
Madhavi garu ide.
Okay. प्रियव्रतस्य प्रियपुत्रभूतात् आग्निधराजादुदितो हिनाभिः त्वां दृष्टवानिष्टदमिष्टिमध्ये तवैव तुष्टै कृतयज्ञकर्मा.
That the ish sound, it's like it's not landing fully as ish. So Tvam Drishtavan Ishtadam Ishti Madhye. Ish.
Okay. प्रियव्रतस्य प्रियपुत्रभूतात् आग्निधराजादुदितो हिनाभिः त्वां दृष्टवानिष्टदमिष्टिमध्ये तवैव तुष्टै कृतयज्ञकर्म.
Answer two. Abhishtutastatra munishwaraistvam rajñasvatulyam sutamartyamaanaha swayam janishyeham bruvanaha tirodhada barhishi vishwamurte. I might have said this before, but in Tamil, the word abhishtu, it's put in a wrong connotation. But in Sanskrit, abhishtu means being very happy and pleased. So I don't know how that switched into some completely different meaning in Tamil. Anyway, so Bhagavan is pleased because of all the yajnam that all of these people are doing. And like we saw in the previous Dasakam, at those times when they used to do it, Pratyaksha Bhagavan used to come in some form in front of them. So this Bhagavan appears. So all these priests there who are performing this yajna, they are saying to Bhagavan that, actually, to please you, we don't have to do all this yajna. Because it's not like, somebody like who has created the entire universe is going to get pleased because you're offering something. He says it's all for our satisfaction. We feel that by offering these things, that's what we are able to do to please. Because we cannot do anything that is going to change Bhagavan's, likeliness of anything, right? It's just because of what we want to do, we are sincerely doing it. So glad you have appeared. And they say when somebody like you appears, the best boon to normally ask is to say, please liberate me from this cycle. But they say we are not that intelligent, very similar to what others have said in the past. And they say this king who is here, Nabhi, who's a very great ruler, who's following all the right things, he and Meru Devi don't have a child. So the boon they ask for is, we want you to be born as their child, or somebody like you to be born. That's what they exactly ask is, we want someone exactly like you to be born as their child. Bhagavan says, somebody like me won't exist, but I myself will come as a partial incarnation to Nabhi and Meru Devi. So that's why it's just a partial incarnation. And we'll see the difference between this partial incarnation and a full incarnation in Dashakam 37. So here he says, I will come as a partial incarnation to both of you. Abhishtutas tatra munishwaraistvam, Rajnyaha, put is Rajnyas Swatulyam Sutamartyamanaha Swayam Janishyehamiti. You have to say that word together because the S symbol is coming. Janishyehamiti Bruvanaha. Add a visarga and comma. Next time, if you have a is at the beginning, that goes away. Tirodhada Barhishi Vishwamurte. Abhishtutastatra munishwaraistvam Rajnyaswatulyam Sutamartyamanaha Swayam Janishyehamiti Bruvanaha Tirodhada Barhishi Vishwamurte.
Abhishtutastatra munishwaraistvam.
Go ahead.
Abhishtutastatra munishwaraistvam Rajnyaswatulyam Sudamatyamanaha Swayam Janishyehamiti Bruvanaha Tirodhada Barhishi Vishwamurte. Abhishtutastatra munishwaraistvam Rajnyaswatulyam Sudamatyamanaha Swayam Janishyehamiti Bruvanaha Tirodhada Barhishi Vishwamurte.
अभिष्टुतस्तस्त्र मुनीश्वरैस्त्वं राज्ञस्वतुल्यं सुतमध्यमानः स्वयं जनिष्येऽहमिति ब्रुवाणः तिरोदधा बर्हिषि विश्वमूर्ते. अभिष्टुतस्तत्र मुनीश्वरैस्त्वं राज्ञस्वतुल्यं सुतमध्यमानः स्वयं जनिष्येऽहमिति ब्रुवाणः Tirodadha Barhishi Vishwamurte.
That last line, that is you removed, right? It's Tirodhada.
Yeah, I removed.
Okay.
Yeah, Tirodadha.
Rajesh, just a quick question. And the second line, Tirodhata kapro Bahirhishi Varma. Bahirshi irukku, correct?
Barhishi.
Barhishi. Okay.
Yeah, and the last time we saw that Prachi na Barhir. The Barhishi is like a sacrificial fire, the Yajna fire. So Barhishi.
Rajesh ji, third line, Swayam Janishye Shamitya Hamitya.
Janishyeham. It is Janishye Aham, but on the S symbol, because it is there, it becomes one word. So Janishyeham.
Janishye. Okay, thank you.
That's a 3. Nabhipriyayam matamherudhivyam tomam shato bhurishabha vidhanah aloka samanya guna prabhava prabhavita shesha jana pramodah. So to this Nabhi and Meru Devi, Bhagavan then incarnates. So his partial incarnation with partial energy, he is then born. And like we saw in the Prithu Charitram, whenever an incarnation happens, the great beings like Brahma and others can see signs and symbols on the body to say that this is Bhagavan. We won't be able to differentiate that. So Brahma, they all realize that, okay, this is an incarnation of Bhagavan that has actually happened for a purpose we are going to see, right? Now, unlike the previous case where to Vena, and Anga, that was actually happening, right? Anga and Vena happened where, he was so disappointed to have a son like that. In this case, it's the extreme opposite. This child right from the birth has been like extremely good. So here they're saying, Aloka Samanya, unlike all the other beings who have greedy, jealousy, and all of this right from the beginning, this boy right from the beginning did not exhibit any of that. He was just completely, he did not have any material desires. He was seeing everybody equal. And then he was just an outstanding kid, right, at that time. So his father then named him as Rishabha. Rishabha means the best that is there. So he is now named as Rishabha. So the whole name is Rishabha Yogishwara. The Yogishwara name is going to come later. So the Rishabha is the name that is actually given to him. Nabhi Priyayamata Meru Devyam, comma, Twamamshato Bhur. You can say it till that together. Twamamshato Bhur Rishabhabhidhanaha Aloka Samanya Guna Prabhava, put a plus, Prabhavitashesha Jana Pramodaha. So in this case, everybody is happy because of this boy. Nabhipriyayam hatamerudevyam Twamam shato bhurrishabhabhidhanaha Aloka samanya guna prabhava prabhavitashesha jana pramodaha.
नाभिप्रियायामतमेरुदेव्यां त्वमंशतो भूर्वृषभाभिधानः प्रभावप्रभाविदाशेषजनप्रमोदः नाभिप्रियायमतमेरुदेव्यां त्वमंशतो भूर्वृषभाभिधानः अलोकसामान्य गुणप्रभाव प्रभाविदाशेष जनप्रमोदः
नाभिप्रियायामथ मेरुदेव्यां त्वमंशतो भूर्वृषभाभिधानः अलोकसामान्यगुणप्रभावप्रभाविताशेषजनप्रमोदः नाभिप्रियायामथ मेरुदेव्यां त्वमंशतो भूर्वृषभाभिधानः अलोकसामान्यगुणप्रभावप्रभाविताशेषजनप्रमोदः.
Wonderful. त्वहि त्रिलोकी भृतिराज्यभारं निधाय नाभिः सह मेरुदेव्या तपोवनं प्राप्य भवन्निषेवि गतः किलानन्दपदं पदं ते. So everybody at that time, they used to follow the varnashrama dharma. At certain time, they have to abandon everything and go to the forest. It is just at what situation you go. Like we say in the case of Anga and Vena, Anga had to leave because he was happy that I have such a bad kid that I want to leave. In this case, his Nabi is happy because his son Rishabha is absolutely loved by all. And then he felt he is the right king who will take everybody in the dharmic path. So because of that, he gets happy with it. And he and his wife Meru Devi at some point renounce everything, and then they go to forest, and it says they eventually go to Badarikashrama, and then they completely surrender themselves, and then they get liberated, right? That's a separate story of theirs. But here Rishabha then takes over the kingdom, right, as the ruler. Tvayi Triloki Bhriti Rajya Bharam, Nidhaya Nabihi, put is Nabis Saha Meru Devya Tapovanam Prapya Bhavan Nishevi, Gataha, put ih sound, Gatah Kilananda Padam Padamte. Tvahi Triloki Bhritirajya Bharam Nidhayanabhis Sahameru Devya Tapovanam Prapya Bhavan Nishevi Gatah Kilananda Padam Padamte.
त्वयि त्रिलोकी पृथिराज्यभारं निधायनाभिः सह मेरुदेव्या तपोवनं प्राप्य पवन्निषेवि कथक्खिलानन्दपदं पदं ते त्वयि त्रिलोकी पृथिराज्यभारं निधायनाभिः सह मेरुदेव्या तपोवनं पवन्निषेवि कथक्खिलानन्दपदं पदं ते
त्वयि त्रिलोकी भृतिराज्यभारं निधाय नाभिः सह मेरुदेव्या तपोवनं प्राप्य भवन्निषेवि गतः किलानन्दपदं पदन्ते. त्वयि त्रिलोकी भृतिराज्यभारं निधाय नाभिः सह मेरुदेव्या तपोवनं प्राप्य भवन्निषेवि गतः किलानन्दपदं पदन्ते.
Indrastvadutkrsha kritadamarshate vavarshanaasminna jana bhavarše Yada tada tvam nija yoga shaktya swavarshamenad vyadadhasu varsham. So I keep comparing it to Anga and Vena and Prithu because the same thing, kind of the story is repeating. Because there also, when Prithu was performing the 100th Ashwamedha Yajna, we saw how Indra came disguised as a saint and tried to take the horse away. So here, Rishabha, who's extremely powerful, is getting more and more powerful because of his yogic powers, right? Because he's an amsham of the Lord already. So when he becomes very strong, again, Indra gets a little upset about it. So in his region, which was called as the Ajanabha, that's where the second line, Nasmin Ajanabha Varshe, double na comes there, but it's Ajana. So Ajanabha, the reason they are given the name is that name is going to change later. So that name is Ajanabha, is the name of the region, which is a big portion of the earth, which Rishabha is ruling right now. So that entire place becomes drought because there's no rain that actually comes there. But however, here Nija Yoga Shaktiya, because of his own yogic powers, he is able to bring rain to that place. So that way, he is able to take care of the land and the vegetation, and all the people are taken care purely by the yogic powers of Rishabha. Indras Twadutkarsha Kritada Marshat. Put a it. Kritada Marshat it, comma. Next line, the Dwa will become a Va. Vavarsha Nasmin Najanabha Varshe. So it's a double na comes there because Nasmin in and a when it joins, it becomes a double na there. So you can just say it that way. Nasmin Najanabha Varshe. Yada tada tvam nija yoga shaktya, comma, swa varshamenad vyadadhaha. Put is vyadadhas suvarsham. Indrastvadutkrsha kritadamarshate vavarshanaasminna jana bhavarshe yada tada tvam nija yoga shaktya swavarshamena vyadadha suvarsham.
इन्द्रस्त्वदुत्कर्ष्य कृतातमर्षात् ववर्ष्यनास्मिन् न जना भवर्षे यदा तदा त्वं निजयोगशक्त्या स्ववर्षमेन व्यदथा सुवर्षम् इन्द्रस्त्वदुत्कर्ष्य कृतादमर्षात् ववर्षनास्मिन् न जना भवर्षे यदा तदा त्वं निजयोगशक्त्या स्ववर्षमेन व्यदथा सुवर्षम्
इन्द्रस्त्वदुत्कृष्य कृतादमर्षात् ववर्षनास्मिन्न जना भवर्षे यदा तदा त्वं निजयोगशक्त्या स्ववर्षमेनद्व्यदथा सुवर्षम्.
Madhukar, first line. Indrastvadukarsha.
Okay. Indrastvadukarsha, dutkrsha, right?
No, Twadutkarsha.
Oh, dutkarsha. Okay. इन्द्रस्त्वदुत्कर्ष कृतादमर्षात् ववर्षनास्मिन्न जना भवर्षे यदा तदा त्वं निजयोगशक्त्या स्ववर्षमेनद्व्यदथा सुवर्षम्.
6. Jitendra Dattam Kamanim Jayantim Atodvahannatmarata Shahyopi Ajijanastattra Shatam Tanujan Esham Kshitiksho Bharato Grajanma. So this Indra, in this case, not much of an argument or anything happens. Indra then gives his daughter called as Jayanti in marriage to Rishabha. So Jayanti and Rishabha get married, and then they lead a proper life, very devotional, spiritual life, also as a ruler. Now to this Rishabha and Jayanti are born 100 sons. The first son is called as Bharata. So, listen, there's a misconception that Shakuntala's son Bharata, it's because of him, it is called as Bharata Desham and all. All of that is not right. This happened thousands and hundreds of thousands of years back. And in Bhagavatam, Sukabhramam tells Parikshit, it is because of this son Bharata, this entire region is called Bharata Varsha. Bharata Varsha doesn't mean today's India. It's a very big portion of the earth is called Bharata Varsha. We're going to see some of that in Dasakam 21. But it's a huge portion of the earth which he was ruling is called Bharata Varsha, after the son Bharata, who is actually born to them. So that is the first son who is called, was name is Bharata, and then he had 99 more sons. 100 sons are born to them. Has anybody heard about Jada Bharata? Yeah, okay. If I have time today, 5-10 minutes, I will tell you the story of Jada Bharata. That is the one thing in Bhagavatam which is not in Narayaneeyam. It's an amazing story about this Bharata and what happens to him. So towards the end of the class, we'll spend some time on that. Jitendra Dattam Kamanim Jayantim Im, put a im at the end of that line, Jayantim. Next line, the ma will become a. Atodvahanatmaratashayopi. If you want to break it, you're not able to say it together, you can break it as Atodvahan Atmaratashayopi. Okay, you can break it that way. Ajijanas Tatra Shatam Tanujan in, comma. Next line, Nesham becomes Esham. Esham Kshitisho Bharatogra Janma. Jitendra Dattam Kamahim Jayantim Atodvahanatmaratashayopi Ajijanastattra Shatam Tanujan Esham Kshitisho Bharatogra Janma.
Jitendra Dattam Kamanim Jayantim Adodvahanat Marathashayobi Ajijanastattra Shadam Tanujan Yesham Kshidisho Paradokra Janma. Jitendra Tattam Kamanim Jayantim Adodvahanat Maradhashayobi Ajijanastattra Shadam Tanujan Yesham Kshidisho Paradokra Janma.
Jitendra Dattam Kamanim Jayantim Athodvahanatmaratashayopi Ajijanastattra Shatam Tanujam Esham Kshitisho Bharatokra Janma. Jitendra Dattam Kamanim Jayantim Athodvahanatmaratashayopi Ajijanastattra Shatam Tanujam Esham Kshitisho Bharatokra Janma.
7. Nava Bhavan Yogi Vara Navanye Twapalayan Bharata Varsha Khandan Saika Twashitis Tavashesha Putraha Tapo Bhalad Bhusura Bhuyamiyuhu. Just quickly tells about that other 99 sons. So the Bharata, he becomes the next ruler after Rishabha. But the other 9 sons who are actually there, they also get different portions. So it has a name of this portion called as Ilavrata, Kushavarta, all these names which are going to come in Dasakam 21. So the various portions of the earth they take and they rule, and the remaining 81 who are there or 90 who are there, they take up sannyasa. So that's how kind of all of them, generally they don't spread the population or anything. Only few of them continue to do it. The rest of them completely become, take Paramahamsa sannyasam. Nava Bhavan Yogivara Navanye, put a plus, Twapalayan Bharata Varsha Khandan. So those 2 lines are together. Saika Twashitis Tava Shesha Putraha, put a visargan comma, Putraha. Next line is goes away. Tapo Bhalat Bhusura Bhuyamiyuhu. Nava Bhavan Yogi Vara Navanye Twapalayan Bharata Varsha Khandan Saika Twashitis Tavashesha Putraha Tapo Balad Bhusura Bhuyamiyuhu.
Navabhavan Yogi Vara Navanye Twabalayan Bharata Varsha Khandan Saika Twashitis Tavashesha Putraha Tapo Balat Bhusura Bhuyamiyuhu. Navabhavan Yogi Vara Navanye Twabalayan Bharata Varsha Khandan Saika Twashitis Tavashesha Putraha Tapo Balat Bhusura Bhuyamiyuhu.
न वा भवन् योगिवरा नवान्ये त्वपालयन् भारतवर्षखण्डान् सैकात्वशीतिस्तव शेषपुत्राः तपोबलात् भूसुरभूयमेयुः न वा भवन् योगिवरा नवान्ये त्वपालयन् भारतवर्षखण्डान् सैकात्वशीतिस्तव शेषपुत्राः तपोबलात् भूसुरभूयमेयुः
उक्त्वा सुतेभ्योऽथ मुनीन्द्रमध्ये विरक्तिभक्त्यन्वितमुक्तिमार्गम् स्वयं गतः पारमहंस्य वृत्तिम् अधा जडोन्मत्तपिशाचचर्याम्. 8 and 9 kind of connected. So this Rishabha, his name is right now Rishabha, then he was already a great person. Now, that is not the purpose of his incarnation, has not yet come. So the main purpose of his incarnation was he was the greatest of the yogi, a Paramahamsa, a self-realized soul. This Rishabha was. That's why the name Yogishwara got added at the up in the next to the name Rishabha. So Rishabha Yogishwara means Rishabha is the best. Yogishwara means the Ishwara of yogas. So one who had very good control over, his mind and his body and senses and all of the yogic systems. So this Rishabha Yogeshwara, because he had 100 sons, Bharata was going to be ruling. So he then abandoned his kingdom and then he started wandering. And then he started teaching the science of, self-realization through renunciation. So not getting attached to anything, right? And all of that. And then he talks about how he then, he taught it to all of his sons. So all of his sons also got it. And when you go to the Bharata story, you'll see how Bharata also continues to follow it. And then the Rishabha Yogeshwara's preachings kind of said that he's talked about how this body that we get as humans, right? Animals also have bodies similar to us. Dog has 2 hands, 2 legs, pig has 2 hands, 2 or whatever, 4, right? But he says, but you all have an advantage as humans is you have this mind to discriminate between what is good, what is wrong, why am I born, what should I be doing, all that. Well, most of the animals don't. They all just survive for sensory pleasures, right? They eat, they sleep, they help out, they do all that stuff. But he says, but if you humans don't use your intellect in the right purpose, he says there's no difference between you and any of the animals who are there who are slightly lower consciousness, right? So he says you have to take this birth as human to start putting your intellect and mind in the right direction of really questioning who am I, why am I here, what is going to happen to me. If you don't do that, then you are just going to continue in this cycle, right? So he kind of teaches those things of self-renunciation and how to, get into realizing who you truly are. That is in this stanza. I'll explain more in the next one. So he becomes a big Paramahamsa, this Yogishwara. So, and then he goes around the world, preaching all this. Uktva sutebhyota munindra madhye, virakti bhaktianvita mukti margam swayam gataha, put a F, gataf, paramahamsya vrittim, put a im, comma. Next line, the ma becomes a a. Adha jadonmatta pishacha charyam. I'll explain the last line in the context of the next stanza. Uktva sutebhyota munindra madhye virakti bhaktianvita mukti margam swayam gatah paramahamsya vrittim adha jadonmatta pishacha charyam.
उक्त्वा शुदेभ्योऽथ मुनीन्द्रमध्ये विरक्तिभक्त्यन्वितमुक्तिमार्गम् स्वयं गतः पारमहंस्य वृत्तिम् अधा जडोन्मत्तपिशाचचर्याम् उक्त्वा शुदेभ्योऽथ मुनीन्द्रमध्ये विरक्तिभक्त्यन्वितमुक्तिमार्गम् स्वयं गतः पारमहंस्य वृत्तिम् अतः जडोन्मत्त पिशाचचर्याम्
उक्त्वा सुतेभ्योऽथ मुनीन्द्रमध्ये विरक्तिभक्त्यन्वितमुक्तिमार्गम् स्वयं गतः पारमहंस्य वृत्तिम् अधा जडोन्मत्तपिशाचचर्याम् उक्त्वा सुतेभ्योऽथ मुनीन्द्रमध्ये विरक्तिभक्त्यन्वितमुक्तिमार्गं स्वयं गतः पारमहंस्य वृत्तिम् अधा जडोन्मत्तपिशाचचर्याम्.
That's a nine. Paratmabhutopi paropadesham kurvan bhavan sarva nirasyamanah vikarahino vichachara kritsna mahi mahinat marasabhilinah. So continuing the previous one, so he essentially, because he was called as an avadhuta. An avadhuta is a person who doesn't care for any of the normal social conventions. So we all feel like when I go out, I have to put some clothes on because everybody will look at me if I walk naked, right? That's not the right social convention, and all the things that are there. An avadhuta is a person who doesn't care for any of what anybody believes in. They just are satisfied with themselves, and they have only one purpose, which is to be constantly meditating and then just being ignorant to everything else. So such people, when they walk, they're called as the jada. Jada means a person who is like dumb. Jadam, they have absolutely no brain. Pishacha, means somebody who's like a ghost. They wander around because they don't have a house, they don't have a place to stay, they don't eat anything, they just eat whatever comes, and they have absolutely nothing of what we follow on a daily routine. They follow, they're just by themselves, right? So he started roaming around in that way, and when, of course, when you start doing that, everybody else looks at you as an outlier. And then everybody, then people started like throwing stones at him, beating him, urinating on him. But he didn't care for anything because he just believed that he is not the body. He says, you can do whatever you want to my body. The inner soul that I have, that knows what is happening, and he doesn't care for any of that. So with that, he started roaming all over the world and then preaching all of these things, right? So I'll ask a question. Does anybody know what this lineage later on becomes? Not the exact what Rishabha Yogeshwara is doing, but a similar concept becomes a religion later on. Who walks around being very careful about not stepping on insects, not wearing clothes, a lot of them?
Jainism.
Jainism. So it later on becomes Jainism. So what Rishabha Yogeshwara preached is not Jainism, because Shukra Brahman clarifies that very clearly to Parikshit, saying that what Rishabha Yogeshwara, the principles he laid out, were still related to Bhagavan, related to that self-realization, related to meditation, all of that stuff. Later on, some of those tenets of what Rishabha Yogeshwara preached, some others took it and then created a new religion with some more, layers and structures around it, which became the fundamental principles of Jainism later on. So this is not exactly what Jainism is, but Jainism came from this, right? That's how it is defined. So anyway, so he then roamed around with this and preaching everything. So Rishabha Yogeshwara is the first one who explained those principles and concepts to everybody. Paratma bhutopi paropадesham, kurvan bhavan sarva nirasya manah vikara hino vichachara kritsnam, put a plus, mahi mahinat marasabhilinah. Cannot break that word, so you have to say the whole word together. Last two lines together. Paratma bhutopi paropадesham kurvan bhavan sarva nirasyamanah vikarahino vichachara kritsna mahi mahinat marasabhilinah.
Paratmabhutopi paropadesham kurvan bhavan sarvanirasyamanah vikarahino vichachara kritsnam mahi mahinat marasabhilinah. Paratmabhutopi paropadesham kurvan bhavan sarvanirasyamanah vikarahino vichachara kritsnam mahi mahinat marasabhilinah.
परात्मभूतोऽपि परोपदेशं कुर्वन् भवान् सर्वनिरस्यमानः विकारहीनो विचचार कृत्स्नं महीमहीनात्मरसाभिलीनः. परात्मभूतोऽपि परोपदेशं कुर्वन् भवान् सर्वनिरस्यमानः विकारहीनो विचचार कृत्स्नां महीमहीनात्मरसाभिलीनः.
You switch halfway. Deepa, you can be student, and Ravi, you can be student. 21. Sorry, 10. Shayuvratam gomrigakakacharyam chirancharanapya swarupam davahritangah kutakachanetvam tapan mamapa kuruvatanatha. So he then practiced this way of living, right? And then he, later on in, I think 93 or 94, we're going to see about 25 gurus in which some of this is going to come. So he refers to how, you have to be like a python. And what he means by that is a python doesn't go in search of food. It just sits, and anything which comes its way, it eats. Whatever it gets, it eats or swallows, right? So he says that he was doing things like that, and how like, they give examples of, various animals and birds and what you learn from them. Of that was how he was leading his life. So essentially he didn't care about anything else. And then one time when he was very old, and then he was walking on the Kurg mountains, that place, there was a forest fire and nobody knows what happened. He probably passed away at that point, or his life departed, but essentially he was an angam of Bhagavan, so he eventually got liberated. But that was the message and the teachings that he spread to everyone, was to not waste this birth and realize the true purpose of his birth. So this Rishbha Yogeshwara story comes to an end, and in the end, Guru Arapa, please eradicate my ailments. Shayu Vratam Go Mriga Kaka Charyam. So each of that is a Shayu is like a python, and Go is a cow, Mriga is a deer, Kaka is a crow. So each of them teaches you a lesson of how they behave, and how, like a snake sheds its skin and just keeps moving on. It's not attached to that skin. So similarly, those are all the lessons that he teaches everyone. Comma. Chiram Charannapya Param Swarupam Dava Khrutangah, put a ich, Khrutangah Kutakachale Tvam, comma, Tapan Mamapakuru Vata Natha. Shayuvratam Gomrigakakacharyam Chiram Charannapya Param Swarupam Davahritangah Kutakachale Tvam Tapan Mamapakuru Vata Natha.
शयुव्रतं गोमृगकाकचर्यां चिरं चरन्नाप्य परं स्वरूपं दवाहृताङ्गृह कुटकाचले त्वं तापान् ममापाकुरु वातनात्. शयुव्रतं गोमृगकाकचर्यां चिरं चरण्याप्य परं स्वरूपं दवाहृताङ्गृह कुटकाचले त्वं तापान् ममापाकुरु वातनात्.
Deepan, the third line, Dava Hritangah.
Dava Hritanga.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sayuvridam Gomrga Kakacharyam Chiram Charannabhyaparam Swarupam Dava Hridangah Kodakacha Letvam Tapan Mamapa Guruvatanata. Sayuvritam Gomrga Kakacharyam Chiram Charannabhyaparam Swarupam Dava Hritangah Kodakacha Letvam Tapan Mamapa Guruvatanata.
Shri Krishnaya Parabrahmane Namaha. Okay, so I would normally send it before, but I forgot to. I just pasted 2 images in the WhatsApp if you want to keep it open, just for reference if you want. Okay, so Dashakam 21 is Jambu Dvipadishu Bhagavat Upasana Prakara Varnana. So the various regions of Jambu Dvipa, they worship the same Bhagavan, but in different ways. So this is like one of those things where each of the stanza is a prayer to one incarnation of Bhagavan, or one form of Bhagavan, right? It's a very beautiful chapter, no story or anything. It is each of the stanza is a prayer. It says in this region, everybody worships you in this form, right? That's what it is. Stanza 1. Madhyodbhave bhuva ilavritanamni varshe Gauri Pradhana Vanita Janamatra Bhaji Sharvena Mantra Nutibhis Samupasyamanam Sankarshanatmakam Adhishwara Samshraye Tvam. So it first, starts in the region called as Ilavrata. So I'm just going to look into the screen on my other monitor. So Ilavrata, if you zoom in, it's that red color small region which is actually there. So this is again talking back to this map. First of all, is not even correct, not even accurate, because this map was put together probably in the last 20 years sometime, right? This, when they are talking about, is thousands and thousands of years back. So you don't know exactly how, or maybe hundreds of thousands of years back. So at that time, you don't know how the geography of the various regions was. So this is approximation, right? You don't have to exactly assume that. And this is also talking about that time, not about the current times, right? So in that region of Ilavrata, it says which was primarily exclusively, a lot of women used to live there with, with Gauri, with Parvati as their chief. He says all of this is Samshraye Twam. So he says, I'm doing namaskarams to you, who is present in that region as Sankarshana, and then you are then worshipped as also as Ardhanarishwara, as a form of Shiva and Parvati residing in that region together. So that is that region which is actually there where you are then worshipped. Now Sankarshana is slightly different than Shiva and Parvati, but you are worshipped in that region as Sankarshana and also the form of Ardhanarishwara, Shiva and Parvati. So to that form of yours, my namaskarams. Madhyodbhave bhuva ilavrita namni varshe, Gauri pradhana vanitajana matra bhaji sharvena mantra nutibhihi, put is mantra nutibhis samupasyamanam, sankarshanatmakam, breaking at that ma, sankarshanatmakam adhishwara samshraye tvam. Madhyodbhave bhuva ilavritanamni varshe Gauri pradhana vanita janamatra bhaji sharvena mantra nutibhis samupasyamanam sankarshanatmakam adhishwara samshraye tvam.
मध्योद्भवे भुव इलावृतनाम्नि वर्षे गौरी प्रदानवनिता जनमात्रभाजी शर्वेण मन्त्रनुतिभिः समुपास्यमानं सङ्कर्षणात्मकमधीश्वर संश्रये त्वाम्. मध्योद्भवे भुव इलावृतनाम्नि वर्षे गौरी प्रदानवनिता जनमात्रभाजी शर्वेण मन्त्रनुतिभिः समुपास्यमानं सङ्कर्षणात्मकमधीश्वर संश्रये त्वाम्.
मध्योद्भवे भुव इलावृतनाम्नि वर्षे गौरी प्रधानवनिता जनमात्रपाजी सर्वेण मन्त्रनुदिभिः समुपास्यमानं सङ्कर्षणात्मकमधीश्वर संश्रये त्वाम्.
Third line, first word, sharvena.
Sharvena. मध्योद्भवे भुव इलावृधाननाम्नि वर्षे गौरी प्रधानवनिता जनमात्रपाजी शर्वेण मन्त्रनुदिभिः समुपास्यमानं सङ्कर्षणात्मकमधीश्वर संश्रये त्वाम्.
Answer 2. Bhadrashvanamaka ilavritapurvavarše Bhadrashravobhirishibeh parinuyamanam Kalpanta Guda Nigamodharana Pravinam Dhyayami Devahayashir Shatanum Bhavantam. So Dhyayami, I am meditating on that form of yours as Hayagriva, the one who has a neck like that of a horse neck person who restored the Vedas, during the transition after the Pralayam to help Brahma out, that Hayagriva form, which is worshipped in the region called Bhadrashrava, so which is Ilavrita Purva, to the east of Ilavrita. So Ilavrita is considered like the central region. So from there, all these regions are referenced. If you look at the east of it, is the Bhadrashrava region. So in that region, you were worshipped as Hayagriva. So my Dhyayami, my meditation on that form of yours. Bhadrashva Namaka इलावृत पूर्व वर्षे भद्रश्रवोभिर् इर् sound भद्रश्रवोभिर् ऋषिभिः put a f ऋषिभिः परिणूयमानं कल्पान्त गूढ़ निगमोद्धरण प्रवीणं ध्यायामि देव हयशीर्ष तनुं भवन्तम्. So this Dasakam, the advantages in one Dasakam, 13 or 14 stanzas in this, all the incarnations are referred, right? So it's like one chapter which kind of you can pray to everybody in one Dasakam. भद्राश्वनामक इलावृत पूर्व वर्षे भद्रश्रवोभिर्षिभिः परिणूयमानं कल्पान्त गूढ़ निगमोद्धरण प्रवीणं ध्यायामि देव हयशीर्षतनुं भवन्तम्.
भद्राश्रवनामक इलावृतपूर्ववर्षे भद्रश्रवोभिऋषिभिः परिणूयमानं कल्पान्तगूढनिगमोदरण प्रवीणं ध्यायामि देवहयशीर्षतनुं भवन्तम्.
The first line, Bhadrashva.
भद्राश्वनामक.
Yeah.
भद्राश्वनामक इलावृतपूर्ववर्षे भद्रश्रवोभिऋषिभिः परिणूयमानं कल्पान्तगूढनिगमोदरणप्रवीणं ध्यायामि देवहयशीर्षतनुं भवन्तम्.
भद्रास्वनामके इलावृत पूर्ववर्षे भद्रस्वर्वोभिर्ऋषिभिः परिणूयमानं कल्पान्तगूढनिगमोद्धरणप्रवीणं ध्यायामि देव हयशीर्षतनुं भवन्तम्. भद्रास्वनामके इलावृत पूर्ववर्षे भद्रासर्वोभिर्ऋषिभिः परिणूयमानं कल्पान्तगूढनिगमोद्धरणप्रवीणं ध्यायामि देव हयशीर्षतनुं भवन्तम्.
That's it. ध्यायामि दक्षिणगते हरिवर्षवर्षे प्रह्लादमुख्यपुरुषैः परिसेव्यमानम् उत्तुङ्गशान्तधवलाकृतिमेकशुद्ध ज्ञानप्रदं नरहरिं भगवन् भवन्तम्. So dhyayami, I'm meditating on that form of yours, which is a tall form, which is white in color, who's extremely calm and who gives the knowledge of the Brahman. When I give this description, nobody will say Narasimha Avataram, right? Because Narasimha Avataram is supposed to be very Ghoram Avataram. But we'll see in Dashakam 25 why Narasimha is also extremely calm, right? So anyway, so this form of yours, which is the tall, white, and that very calm form of yours as Narasimha, where Prahlada and others worship you in that form. So that region is to the to the south of Ilavrata, the region called as Harivarsha. So if you look in the map, sorry, I lost my map there. Yeah, south of Ilavrata, the Harivarsha, which is a light blue region, you are worshipped there as Narasimha by Prahlada and everybody else. Dhyayami dakshinagate harivarsha varshe. Sorry, they break it, no, right? Dhyayami dakshinagate harivarsha varshe, Prahlada mukhya purushaihi, put a F purushaiv, parishevya manam, uttunga shanta dhavalakritim. I'm just breaking at that ma there. Dhavalakritim eka Shuddha, put a plus, Jnana Pradham Naraharim Bhagavan Bhavantam. Dhyayami Dakshinagate Harivarsha Varshe Prahlada Mukhya Purushaiv Parishevyamanam Uttunga Shanta Dhavala Kritimeka Shuddha Jnana Pradham Naraharim Bhagavan Bhavantam.
ध्यायामि दक्षिणगते हरिवर्षवर्षे प्रह्लादमुख्यपुरुषैः परिसेव्यमानम् उत्तुङ्ग उत्तुङ्गशान्तधवलाकृतिमेकशुद्ध ज्ञानप्रदं नरहरिं भगवन् भवन्तम् ध्यायामि दक्षिणगते हरिवर्षवर्षे प्रह्लादमुख्यपुरुषैः परिसेव्यमानम् उत्तुङ्गशान्तधवलाकृतिमेकशुद्धज्ञानप्रदं नरहरिं भगवन् भवन्तम्
ध्यायामि दक्षिणकरे हरिवर्षवर्षे प्रह्लाद्यमुख्यपुरुषैः परिसेव्यमानम् उत्तुङ्गशान्तधवलाकृतिमेकसुत्त ज्ञानप्रदं नरहरिं भगवन् भवन्तम् ध्यायामि दक्षिणकरे हरिवर्षवर्षे प्रह्लादमुख्यपुरुषैः परिसेव्यमानम् उत्तुङ्गशान्तधवलाकृतिमेकसुत्त ज्ञानप्रदं नरहरिं भगवन् भवन्तम्
And support. वर्षे प्रतीचि ललितात्मनि केतुमाले लीला विशेष ललित स्मित शोभनांगम लक्ष्म्या प्रजापति सुतैश्च निषेव्यमानं तस्याः प्रियाय धृत काम तनुं भजे त्वाम्. So Pratichi, to the west of Ilavratha, it is in a beautiful region called as Ketumala, which is, if you look at the map, it seems like more like Pakistan, Afghanistan region. So in that region of Ketumala, you then reside in the form of Kamadeva. So that is the form of yours where everybody worships you, including Lakshmi Devi, and everybody worships you in that form, and then so to that, and even the Prajapati Sutais, even the sons of Prajapatis, everybody goes there. So when we go to Dasakam 23, when we see Daksha Charitram, you'll see that a lot of them end up going to the north, that region, for meditation before they can go and create more beings. So there's something in that region which is very holy, that area. Anyway, so then even later on we'll see the Samantha Panchaka region, which is the Kurukshetra area, and all of that area is very religious areas. Anyway, in that area, approximately that area, you are worshipped as Kamadeva. Varshe Pratichi Lalitatmani Ketumale, Leela Vishesha Lalita Smitha Shobhanangam Lakshmya Prajapati Sutaischa Nishevyamanam, Tasyaha, put a F, Tasyah Priyaya Dhrita Kama Tanum Bhaje Tvam. I worship you in that form. वर्षे प्रतीचि ललितात्मनि केतुमाले लीला विशेष ललित स्मित शोभनांगम लक्ष्म्या प्रजापति सुतैश्च निषेव्यमानं तस्याः प्रियाय धृत काम तनुं भजे त्वाम्.
वर्षे प्रतीचि ललितात्मनि केतुमाले लीला विशेष ललितस्मितशोभनाङ्गं लक्ष्म्या प्रजापतिसुतैश्च निषेव्यमानं तस्याः प्रियाय धृतकामतनुं भजे त्वाम् वर्षे प्रतीचि ललितात्मनि केतुमाले लीला विशेष ललितस्मितशोभनाङ्गं लक्ष्म्या प्रजापतिसुतैश्च निषेव्यमानं तस्याः प्रियाय धृतकामतनुं भजे त्वाम्
वर्षे प्रदीचि ललितात्मनि केतुमाले लीला विशेष ललित स्मितशोभनाङ्गं लक्ष्म्या प्रजापतिसुतैश्च निषेव्यमानं तस्याः प्रियाय त्रिदकामधनुं भजे त्वाम् वर्षे प्रदीचि ललितात्मनि केतुमाले लीला विशेष ललित स्मितशोभनाङ्गं लक्ष्म्या प्रजापतिसुतैश्च निषेव्यमानं तस्याः प्रियाय त्रिदकामधनुं भजे त्वाम्.
That's fine. रम्ये ह्युदीचि खलु रम्यकनाम्नि वर्षे तद्वर्षनाथमनुवर्य सपर्यमानं भक्तैकवत्सलम् अमत्सरहृत्सुभान्तं मत्स्याकृतिं भुवननाथ भजे भवन्तम्. So bhaje, I am worshipping you in this region called as Ramyaka, which is to the north of Ilavratha. So there, the current Manu, because this is what Shukra Brahman is saying, Parikshit, so it's in the current Manu, Vaivaswata Manu, worships you in the form of Matsya. So we'll see, why does Vaivaswata Manu worship Bhagavan in the form of Matsya, because Matsya Avataram would have happened long time back. We'll see that in Dashakam 32, the connection between Matsya Avataram and Vaivaswata Manu, who is the current Manu. So anyway, so Vaivaswata Manu worships you in that form as Matsya Avataram, and you are, you bless all your devotees who are pure in heart, who have no attachments, you bless them. So to that form of yours, I'm worshipping. Ramye Hyudichi Khalu Ramyaka Namni Varshe, Tad Varsha Natha Manuvarya Saparyamanam Bhaktaika Vatsalam. I'm breaking at that ma. Vatsalam Amatsara Hritsu Bhantam, Matsyakritim Bhuvananatha Bhaje Bhavantam. Ramhe Hyudichi Khalu Ramyakanamni Varshe Tadvarshanatha Manuvadya Saparyamanam Bhaktaika Vatsalama Matsara Hritsu Bhantam Matsyakritim Bhuvananatha Bhaje Bhavantam.
रम्ये ह्युदीचि खलु रम्यकनाम्नि वर्षे तद्वर्षनाथमनुवर्य सपर्यमानं भक्तैकवत्सलममत्सरहृत्सुभान्तं मत्स्याकृतिं भुवननाथ भजे भवन्तम् रम्ये ह्युदीचि खलु रम्यकनाम्नि वर्षे तद्वर्षनाथमनुवर्य सपर्यमानं भक्तैकवत्सलममत्सरहृत्सुभान्तं मत्स्याकृतिं भुवननाथ भजे भवन्तम्.
And the third line, Hृत्सुभान्tam.
हृत्सुभान्तं.
रम्येऽप्युदीचि खलु रम्यकनाम्नि वर्षे तत्वर्षनादमनुवर्य सपर्यमानं भक्तैकवत्सलं मत्सरहृत्सुपान्तं मत्स्याकृतिं भुवननाथ भजे भवन्तम् रम्येऽप्युदीचि खलु रम्यकनाम्नि वर्षे तत्वर्षनादमनुवर्य सपर्यमानं भक्तैकवत्सलं मत्सरहृत्सुपान्तं मत्स्याकृतिं भुवननाथ भजे भवन्तम्.
Again, the third line, either Vatsalam Amatsara or Vatsalam Amatsara in one flow.
Okay, so
third line.
Bhaktaika Vatsalamatsaren solnuma.
If you want to break it, you say Bhaktaika Vatsalam Amatsara Hitsubhantam.
Oh, Amatsara. Oh, sorry. Okay. Got it.
Salam Amatsara Hrityubhantam.
Stanza 6. Varsham Hiranmaya Samahvayam Autaraham Asinam Adhridriti Karmathakamatangam Samsevate Pitrgana Pravaroryamaayam Tam Tvam Bhajami Bhagavan Parachinmayatman. So next he's going to this region called as Hiranmaya, which is right on top of the Ramyaka, so the orange color region. So there, previous was Matsyavataram. This is saying you are worshipping in the form of a Kamatha, which is a tortoise. So as a tortoise, which was able to lift the Mandhara mountain, which we'll see in the Kurma Avataram later. So that you are worshipped by everybody in that region and by the head of Pitrus, everyone, as Kurma Avataram. So that form of yours I'm meditating on. Varsham Hiranmaya Samahvayam, breaking at that ma, Samahvayam Autaraham, put a im at the end of that line, comma, Autaraham, comma. Next line, the ma becomes a. Asinam Adri Dhriti Karmatha Kamatangam Samsevate Pitru Gana Pravarorya Mayam, comma, Tam Tvam Bhajami Bhagavan Parachinmayatman.
Rajesh, one more time. Split to solungo. Second line.
Second line. Asinam Adri Dhriti Karmatha Kamatangam. वर्षं हिरण्मयसमाह्वयमौत्तराहम् आसीनम् अद्रिधृतिकर्मठकामठाङ्गम् संसेवते पितृगणप्रवरोर्यमायम् तं त्वां भजामि भगवन् परचिन्मयात्मन्
वर्षं हिरण्मय
समाह्वयम्
समाहव्यहं मौतराहम् मदिधृति कर्मटकामटाङ्गं संसेवते प्रवरो यर्यमायं तं त्वां भजामि भगवन् परचिन्मयात्मन्.
And the first line and the ha is a half ha. Samahvayam.
Samahvayam.
No, you are saying samaha. You are saying it's samahvayam.
Samahvayam.
Autaraham.
Mautaraham.
No, if you're saying samahvayam, it becomes autaraham.
Autaraham. Varsham hiranmaya samahvayam mautaraham.
Yes, samahvayam autaraham.
Samahvayam mautaraham. Madridriti karmata kamatangam samsevate pitragana pravaro yaryamayam tam tvam bhajami bhagavan parichinmayatman.
Parachinmayatman. Yeah, Deepan, again, the first and the word, you can either say samahvaya mautaraham as one word, but if you're breaking it as samahvayam, then it becomes autaraham, O-U.
Autaraham.
Okay.
Either you can say the whole word together, but if you're breaking it as in, then it becomes out. I think you're samahvayam mautaraham, you're saying. So you're repeating the ma twice there.
Okay. Got it.
So, Rajesh, ஆசீனம் அப்புறம் அத்ருதன்னு சொல்லணுமா
ஆசீனம் அத்ரி if you're breaking at that mark. Yeah.
वर्षे हिरण्मय समाह्वयम् औत्राहम् आसीनम् अत्रिदृत् कर्मडकामठाङ्कम् संसेवते पितृगण प्रवोर्यमायम् दं त्वां भजामि भगवन् परचिन्मयात्मन्.
First word varsham. நீங்க வர்ஷே you said varsham.
வருஷம் அங்க வருஷேன்னு போட்டிருக்கு.
Okay, just varsham.
वर्षं हिरण्मय समाह्वयम् औत्तराहम् आसीनम् अत्रिदृत् कर्मडकामठाङ्गम् संसेवते पितृगण प्रवोर्यमायम् दं त्वां भजामि भगवन् परचिन्मयात्मन्.
Third line pravaroryamayam.
प्रवर्योर्यमायम् दं त्वां भजामि भगवन् परचिन्मयात्मन्.
Quickly do 7 and then I'll tell the story of Jadabharata. Kinchotareshu kurushu priyaya dharanya, samsevito mahita mantra nuti prabhedaihi damshtragra grishta ghana prishta garishta varshma. Repeat again. Damshtragra grishta ghana prishta garishta varshma, tvam pahi vignanuta yajna varaha murte. So now he's going to the region which is north of Hiranmaya, which is in the picture shows us Uttara Kuru. So in there, you are then worshipped by everybody who's in the form which has got a gigantic body, where the tip of the tusks went and rubbed the clouds, the big massive form that we saw of the Varaha Avataram. So as and we saw how the Varaha Avataram is compared to the Yajna because of his called Yajna Varaha. So you're worshipped in the form of Yajna Varaha Murti. So to that form of yours, my meditations. Kinchotareshu kurusho priyaya dharanya samsevito mahita mantra nuti prabhedaihi Damshtragra Grishta Ghana Prishta Garishta Varshma Tvam Pahi Vignanuta Yajna Varaha Murte. This
Rajesh
one
ji,
time. Yeah, go ahead.
sorry. And the fourth line, the third word, repeat pandrela or yadru.
Tvam Pahi Vignanuta.
The wheel, yeah, wheel.
Baba, Victor.
Wheel.
Vignanuta.
Okay, thank you.
What is,
Kimcho.
sorry, what is the region name?
So this is it's Uttara Kuru.
Oh,
Kuru, but Uttara Kuru, northern Kuru, which is on the in the picture I sent, it is the northmost region. Somewhere, I think Russia, Siberia, that area.
okay, thank you.
किंचोत्तरेषु कुरुषु प्रियया धरण्या संसेवितो महितमन्त्रनुति प्रभेदैः दृष्टा
Damshtragra.
दंष्ट्राघगृष्टगणपृष्ठगरिष्ठवर्षमा त्वं पाहि विज्ञनुत यज्ञवराहमूर्ते.
Yeah, one time Borandika.
Okay.
Kim chotareshu gurushu priyayataranyam samsevito mahita mandra nudi prabedaihi damstrakra krishta ganaprishta karishta varshma dvampahi vignanuta yagna varaha murte.
We'll stop this thing here. I'll maybe take 7-8 minutes to tell the story of the Jada Bharata, right? So, like we spoke about Rishabha Yogishwara, the first son was called as Bharata. And just like after whom the Bharata Varsha came about. And just like how Rishabha Yogishwara is, this Bharata was also completely renounced. Now, he was a ruler, Kshatriya, but still, he had all the right principles. He was following all of that. And at one point, he renounced everything. He renounced his entire kingdom. And then he takes up sannyasa. So he goes to the forest. He completely renounces everything. So he has no attachment to the material world. And all he does, day in, beginning to till he goes to sleep, is just meditation and prayers. That's all he was doing, right? So he was all set. And this is such a beautiful story of how things change. So he was all set to get liberated because he was kind of checking all the marks, all the criteria that was going through, right? One day, when he was sitting and meditating, or he was sitting there and praying, a pregnant deer was being chased by a lion in the forest because he's in the forest. The pregnant deer, out of fear for its life and fear for its, the baby, is running, it's jumping over the water. And when it does, the baby falls from the pregnant deer. It gives birth to the baby deer into the water. But the deer cannot wait because the lion is chasing it. So the deer just runs off, abandoning its baby. Now, this person, Bharata, who's sitting there, looks at it and he feels very sorry for the baby deer because the baby deer doesn't have anybody. So what he does is, because the lion is also coming, somehow the lion now goes off, it goes chasing after the deer or whatever. He takes that baby deer and then he says it's a small baby, newborn baby deer, right? How can you abandon it? It doesn't know how to live. What if some other lion comes? So he starts taking care of that baby deer, saying I'm going to help this baby deer for a while till it becomes reasonably sized, right? But I'm just going to cut short and move fast on it, but it doesn't stop there, right? Because he gets attached to it. Now, every day he's taking care of the deer. Now, at what point will he say, this is not my deer? I don't have to worry about this deer, right? He doesn't hit the transition point. So every time the deer gets so attached to him, because the deer doesn't know that it is a deer. The deer thinks all it knows is this Bharata is its parents, is his mother or his father, right? So the deer gets attached to him. He gets attached to the deer. And slowly what happens is it starts eating away his time from his daily rituals. And he starts now he has to take care of the deer in the morning, the afternoon. The deer sleeps with him, the deer lives with him, and then everything he does now suddenly becomes his whole life is revolving around the deer, right? And that's all he does for him, he and his deer is more precious than him. Time somehow passes and he gets aged. He has still not dropped that attachment or affection to the deer. One day he's about to die, right? What do you think was in his mind when he's about to die? He's thinking, oh my God, I've taken care of these deers all these years. The deer doesn't know how to survive in the wild. How is this deer going to survive when I die? Right? And he looks at the deer, he earns for the deer, and his life passes. Right? Whatever your natural desires are at the time of your birth, death is what you take birth next time. So because he was so attached to the deer and he couldn't let go of the deer, he then is born again as a deer in his next birth. And all of this is great because of the great rishis. We are able to know all this to see how life progresses. Otherwise, we have no idea what we were in the previous janma, right? So he then is born as a deer, but because he had already attained a level of spirituality in his previous birth, he remembered all his previous life. And we're going to see one more of that with Gajendra Moksham as well. So he remembered that. So he then says, I am not going to let this birth go waste, right? But what can a deer do? A deer cannot go and meditate, right? So what he does is he goes to the region where there are a lot of sages. He doesn't hang out with deers. He goes to the region where there are a lot of sages, and then he spends time there, and all he does is just listens to everything that is happening. So, and I'll fast forward. So when he dies as a deer, right, his next janmam, he's born as a brahmana in a human form, which gives him an opportunity to get liberated again, right? So that the life of deer is over. So now he's born into a family. He's carrying that vasana. He knows, I almost got liberated as Bharata. I screwed it up. I became a deer. I spent the entire life as a deer. I am not going to let this human life go waste. So what he becomes is he becomes a jadam. He behaves like a jadam. A jadam means a person who doesn't talk, person who doesn't respond. He doesn't do anything. People think he is a dumb person because you ask a question, he doesn't answer, right? He behaves dumb because he says, the moment I start talking to people, I'm going to create bad karma for myself. And all I want is just want to be with myself and Bhagavan, just like how Rishabha Yogeshwara does. So everybody discards him. But he's huge and built. So one of the king at that time, he's wondering the purpose of life. What am I doing? Who am I? And all of that stuff. And all the people are carrying him in a palanquin, and people are getting tired. So the king says, go find somebody who can lift my palanquin. So at that time, they find this guy sitting in the forest, just doing nothing, just lying down lazily, right? So they're telling him, you have such a big body, you come and lift the palanquin, right? So he starts lifting the palanquin. He doesn't respond, right? He just says, whatever you want me to do, I'll do it. So he's lifting the palanquin, but he's not walking in a straight line because there are insects on the ground. So he's like, just, crossing and jumping over that. So it's getting unbalanced and destabilized. So the king gets very upset about it. He says, who's this guy who is like not lifting the palanquin properly? And then he calls him, and then he insults him, but he doesn't respond or anything. At one point, the king really starts yelling at him and his body. So, and he asks, who are you? So then he opens his mouth, and then he says, what do you mean, who am I? And then he talks about the Atman and the soul and how you are attached to the Paramatma, and this body is nothing, and all of the spirituality he gives him, knowledge he gives him. The king then realized, okay, you are the guru I'm looking for, who can teach me the path of self-realization. And then the king surrenders to him and becomes a guru. Anyway, he then spends the rest of his life being a jadam, right? So he doesn't, very similar to Rishabha Yogeshwara. So whatever people hit him, beat him, no matter what they do, he doesn't worry about it. He has his primary goal is, I want to get liberated. And the way I'm going to get liberated is just being with myself and then praying and meditating. And finally, he then gets liberated, right? That's the story of the Jada Bharata, of how, this thing, even though you think you are almost there to get liberated, you can fall from it, right? Because that attachment to things, of anything which you think is yours, will always hold you back, right? So that is the story which is always explained to talk about how at some point you have to renounce everything, because you don't renounce, that's fine. You're going to be just born again. And then, you have to carry out that vasanas of desire that you are actually having with you, right? And we all don't know when we are going to die, right? Wish we knew, because then we can have a clear plan of when I'm going to quit and when I'm going to do all that. But anyway, so that is a beautiful story of Jada Bharata. With an
ராஜேஷ்,
eventually got
இங்க சங்கல்பம் பண்ணும்போது பாரத வருஷேன்னு சொல்றோம், ரமணக வருஷ ஐந்திர கண்டேன். ஸோ இது ரமணக வருஷ ஐந்திர கண்டே, வாட் இஸ் தி
Ramanaka Varsha, Indra Kanda is that the western region of North America, right? Bharata Varsha, like we said, it's not just India. It is the whole region around that area is Bharata Varsha. And then the Bharata Kanda, it starts narrowing. But again, like I said, Anda Samayatala, the definition of what Bharata is different from the current Bharata, right? So when you're doing it in India, you can say Bharata Varsha, Bharata Kante, because it's all contained in that small region, but it is a much bigger region. Okay. Shri Krishnaya Parabrahmane Namaha Sandhanandhavabodhatmakamanupamitam Kaladeshavadibhyam Nirmuktam Nityamuktam Nigamashata Sahasrena Nirbhasyamanam Aspashtam Drishtamatre Punururupurushartatmakam Brahmatattvam Tattavadbhati Sakshat Guru Pavanapure Anta Bhagyam Jananam Kahena Vacha Manasendriyerva Buddhyatmana Va Prakrite Swabhavat Karhomi Yatyat Sakalam Parasmai Narayanaayeti Samarpayami. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you, Rajesh.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.